What are the biggest impacts of the housing affordability crisis in our community? A lack of housing for our workforce. We are hearing from our businesses that they are having trouble finding people that can afford to live here, even with good wages being paid. It is impacting their recruiting and their ability to keep workers who leave for jobs closer to where they live. For example, our teachers make an average of $55,000 a year, and with rent increases and home sale prices increases, many cannot afford to live or rent in Longmont and must live further out.
Well, we have all the same workforce issues that a lot of our surrounding communities have. Not very many people who live in not very many people who work in Louisville can afford to live in Louisville. So we have those issues that I think are shared by a lot of our communities. What I actually hear from our residents is, a little bit of tongue-in-cheek conversation about none of us who live here now could afford to live here if we came now. And more seriously, we have a lot of concern that, people's children won't be able to live in the community where they grew up. People's, grandparents and parents who would like to come live near their families can't afford to live in Louisville because of the housing prices. So I think there's, in addition to the economic effect of the housing prices in Louisville, you also have this effect on families in the community as well.
Like everywhere in the Front Range, the impacts of the housing affordability for Nederland are that our workforce can't afford to live in town anymore. It's a little more difficult for us because we're an isolated town. They can't go a few miles down the road to find somewhere else to live. The nearest town is 20 miles away. So our goal is to address the housing affordability now so that our workforce, our town employees can live in town, live where they work, and not have to commute long distances up and down the Peak to Peak or the mountain roads during the wintertime.
The town of Superior, like many others in Boulder County, have seen a dramatic increase in real estate valuations in the last several years. And this creates a problem of affordability, people not being able to buy anything in the community due to higher prices. It also creates lower inventory, so people that might be able to afford something, they're facing significant competition for the small amount of available properties that there are.
So probably the biggest impact that we've seen in Lyons is our challenges related to replacing the housing we lost in the 2013 flood. We lost over 70 housing units, and to date we're still really struggling to find a way to replace those.
As housing costs outpace wages, the city of Boulder is at risk of losing our social and economic diversity. And in addition, we know that access to affordable and safe housing curbs negative health and associated costs. Because housing is about more than just shelter. It's about the well-being and vitality of our entire community.
What we're seeing in Lafayette is that people are having to make crucial decisions on what they're willing to pay for. So a lot of people are paying over 50% of their income for housing. So then that cuts into budgets for childcare, medical expenses, and food. So it's really at a critical place. We know that people are having to leave because the rent is sky high and maybe they can't afford their mortgage. So it's really crucial that we come together and have these conversations now before we lose what I like to call our heart and soul of Lafayette. And those are the people that have lived here and have really established their community here.
Through our comprehensive plan updates, we have increased densities and allowed for height increases, streamlined our staff's ability to approve variances and incentives without the need for public input, and are now working to streamline and eliminate regulations that stymie the creation of affordable housing. We also have committed $540,000 a year from our general fund to affordable housing, and are recommending to increase this commitment to $1 million a year starting in 2018.
So this is a pretty easy question to answer in Louisville because we're just about to open the largest Boulder County Housing Authority low-income housing project in years, named Kestrel. It's a 200-unit affordable housing project that will have some permanently supportive housing and housing for seniors, housing for families, housing for singles. So that's a really exciting project. We also have many other housing projects in the community that are now managed and owned by Boulder County Housing Authority, including Lydia Morgan for seniors and Sunnyside for families, and Regal Square for mostly for seniors. So we have a pretty good portfolio already, but the Kestrel project is really an exciting step for Louisville.
So in Lyons, again, we've been really focused on recovering from the flooding in 2013, but probably the progress that we've made is really in terms of understanding the different ways of approaching affordable housing solutions and understanding what programs or project types might work best for our community. It's a long learning curve for a small town like Lyons, but we've learned a lot, and I think we have a much better grasp today on what solutions are going to work for us than we did, say, 3 years ago.
The Nederland Board of Trustees set housing affordability as one of our 3 primary goals for this board session from 2016 to 2018. In that time, we've been working with local stakeholders trying to bring new projects into town, increase the stock of housing, affordable housing in town, but also living up to our responsibilities and dedicating places in town that for public housing that we've long set aside, and we are now moving forward to establishing those projects and building out affordable housing on our public properties.
The City of Boulder will continue to make financial investments, develop smart regulations like our inclusionary housing ordinance, and remain committed to reaching our permanent affordable housing goals.
Well, we're very excited in Lafayette to be home to Josephine Commons and Aspinwall. I'm sitting in the Aspinwall Community Center, and it's beautiful. What we have been able to do is partner with Boulder County Housing Authority to provide over 140 affordable apartments, duplexes, and houses, and that really has addressed some of the need in our community, but as we know, it's just the beginning. The other thing that Lafayette is excited about is land banking 23 acres. So the long game is land, and we are excited to have the opportunity to look at potentially 500 affordable housing units in that particular area, and certainly that would be an incredible impact to those folks, both low income and middle income, potentially who may otherwise have to leave the community or leave the county. So that's in the future, and hopefully these conversations that we're having at the summit, we can dialogue about what are the greatest needs and how do we address them for the future.
For the good of our workforce who want to live where they work, our senior residents who want to live the rest of their days in their community, and our children who want to stay in the community they grew up in. We, the elected officials throughout Boulder County, need to address this issue collectively. No one else is going to solve this housing crisis for us. We have to do this together.
Well, I'm really looking forward again to this opportunity to get together with all our neighboring communities and talk about creative ideas where we can continue to work together to address the affordable housing problem that we all face in Boulder County.
So now is the time for all of us to come together, share our ideas, and find out what tools are going to work for us to help us collectively meet the goal of addressing affordable housing.
The time is now for all the communities of Boulder County to come together to find innovative solutions and tools that we can use to address the housing affordability problem. Tools that we can bring back to our local communities, tailor to fit our specific needs and our specific conditions, but do so with the backing of the county.
While we all may have different ideas about what may have been done in the past, we need to kind of put aside those past ideas and come together collectively as a group and figure out the best solutions that work for our community, but also mold those into solutions that work for the overall region to address the affordable housing crisis that we're facing.
So we have an opportunity here today to meet together. We may have different ideas and different paths, but we can bring those ideas forward and collectively make decisions on what we think is best for the county. As we know, affordable housing here in Lafayette impacts other people who needed housing in other parts of the county. I also think it's really important to add that housing is about people's dignity, and the housing that we have here in Lafayette has provided people with an opportunity to be self-sustaining and self-sufficient, and there's no greater gift, I think, than we can give to folks today than to have a really serious conversation about how we move forward together.